The land of the free? I don't think so. What's up, everybody? Welcome aboard to Bubba's Bottom Line for Sunday, June the 11th. And of course, obviously, a very, very exciting week all around. And as we see President Trump now indicted and pleading not guilty to 34 counts. And it's interesting to note that we now have three sets of laws, one for the left, one for the right, and one for the poor schmucks like us that just get it stuck to us at every opportunity. But of course, as we watched with the things that President Trump had done, we continue to ignore what the obvious is and what Joe Biden has done in his entire career as a criminal, who is the president of the United States, but as he has stolen and lied and been a racist throughout it all, against Israel, against everything, but yet the laws don't apply to the left as they continue to abuse those on the right or those in the center, because of course the brainwashing of America is in full force as we push the trans agenda with another male athlete or a trans athlete winning a women's event. Are you kidding me? Is it not time to understand what they are doing to us through this digital age of prison and taking away your freedom at every stop? You know, if you look at what's going on here and you see that you have, and remember what it says, the land of the free and the home of the brave, well, I wouldn't think that we feel so free at the moment as we are, going through from the COVID bullshit, which was total garbage, as said here when it first came out, that was just another way of controlling what was going to happen next and going to take control of people, trying to create a communist environment here in the United States of America. As we have now started to limit the ability to become a capitalist, the ability to start your own, as we allow the big guys, Meta, Google, and the rest to take over. And of course, why do you think they were begging for regulations? Because of course, if they can regulate their industry, it takes away the potential for competition. And certainly, competition is what makes or what made America great. And I know you'll all tell me that America is the greatest place in the world, and yeah, it still is the best. But unfortunately, we are going backwards and catching up to the worst, other than the worst trying to catch up to us. And that is mostly in part to this current administration that is in play, that continues to let illegal immigration, let our money disappear as they continue to tax us, or back to taxation without representation. I think that the entire setup from the Black Lives Matter movement to every other movement that has been here has been pre-contrived and pre-set up to create havoc in this country. As you see police stepping down everywhere as the ban beats on to defund the police. And of course, we now have in California them trying to pass another new law that just makes it easier for the criminals to steal your goods, your business, because you are no longer allowed to confront people that are just walking out of your store with goods. Okay, now if you think that's good for this country, if you think that limiting self-defense is good for this country, maybe you should be somewhere else. Okay, because we have a horrible setup as we continue to watch. You see the murders and the shootings in Chicago each and every week. You've got the rhetoric that continues to go on everywhere, and you now have our government trying to control, of course, the crypto industry, which let's say crypto has been around for 15 years, okay, give or take, but we know that it goes back to right around 2008. Of course, the continued battle to regulate and to try to destroy that. Why? Think about why government would want to destroy cryptocurrency. Is it because it takes away their ability to manipulate our currency? The most fraudulent system in the world is the fiat currency system. And that is letting the central banks control the worth of dollars. So even though you make much more than you might have made 20 years ago, what you have to buy with what you're making more is probably 30% higher than it was. So again, we go back into the inflation angle, which we continue to hear from our government and from our Federal Reserve, that it's transitory, that it's getting better. Well, how is it getting better when you keep paying more at the pump, you keep paying more at the store? I mean, just take a look at some of the commodities. And speaking of the commodities, of course, it appears that government now is trying to destroy the farming community. And of course, why wouldn't they want to destroy and get rid of the small farmer? You know, there's two things that control the world, and that is food and money, okay? So if you take away the ability for food to be free and allow the independent farmer to farm that food, and you get it in the government's hands, what is that going to do for us? Okay, we continue to hear the battles for the climate change and the green energy. Well, again, I am not a believer in climate change, but you are. I have no problem. I don't hold it against you. Okay, but again, you look at what's going on, and you remember that China and India represent 47% of the world. And of course, they're not going to stop burning coal. Coal has gone up, increased 10 to 15% every single year, okay, at the production and the burning of coal. How are you going to prevent that in the atmosphere, okay, if you're really, truly worried about climate change? And now, of course, China is going to start digging deeper and going into the oceans to get oil, and because they want to take their dependence off. And of course, what does that do to the environment? I mean, we have oil we can get without infecting the environment. We have oil that we've been fracking and shale producing for years. That was a big booming business that employed a lot of people at very high paying jobs. And of course, you've destroyed that along with the coal miners, which you destroyed under the Obama administration. And for what? Okay, we're burning more coal today than we were then. Okay, we need gasoline because fossil fuels are still 80% of everything that you do in your life. Okay, I don't care how green you think you want to be. You buy a bottle of water, it takes oil to make that bottle of water. It takes oil to ship that bottle to the store so that you can buy it. Okay, everything we do, 80% of your life revolves around fossil fuels. You want to get to a point where you don't need fossil fuels anymore? Well, you're going to have to make some adjustments to the infrastructure. But of course, that's something that every president in my lifetime has promised, and yet none have done so. And as we talk about the rhetoric, which we call bullshit on, when President Biden talked about the sanctions on Russia, okay, and we talk about this phony war in Russia and Ukraine, which is really now just about the money. There might have been an initial conflict, but now it's about the money, okay? Because the longer they keep the war going, the more money that they can confiscate and get to. But we heard about the sanctions on Russia. Well, their gasoline exports are up 37%. How are they doing? Okay. As I told you from the beginning, that the sanctions are bullshit unless you can prevent them from making money. And right now, Russia is flourishing. No matter what you may hear, you can see it by what's going on with their markets, what's going on with what they're doing. And of course, they're now getting deeper and deeper in bed with China and Saudi Arabia. And Saudi Arabia had, of course, cut oil production once again. And as we said they would do, they did it twice. Not once, but twice. Now, it's interesting because the crude oil markets did not really explode after that information, which brings us to the next problem, which is the deflationary cycle that we're potentially in here. when you look around in the farming community who produces our food, and of course, farmers built this country, but as you look around, you see that prices continue to drop. We are now buying wheat from Poland when we already have very low prices here. And why would we buy from the outside when we're the world's not only biggest producer, but also the highest quality? Why are we allowing that to be done? And of course, you can ask your local legislator why that is happening, because what that is doing is it's taking, once again, away our farmers' rights and abilities to make money. And so as we look and watch the continuation of these woke companies and the outreach for what we have, you've got now Miller Lite, another one off my list, and of course you can see there's no longer a North Face jacket on me because of course I didn't realize that there's so many woke companies it's hard to know, but we continue to see this agenda to push the trans and other things on children, and you should be taken out and get the shit kicked out of you for wanting to teach children whose minds have yet to be molded about being a trans or being in that facility, and educating them when they should be learning how to read and write. Okay, not about gender studies and about changing. I don't like who I am, so I want to change. Maybe we should allow our children to grow up and then make a educated decision. Okay, instead of trying to brainwash them. Of course, that is pretty much what our school system has become. It's become a place where we try to control and brainwash our children into one way of thinking. And we all know that has been tried many times in the past, and it always ends up in a disaster. And I don't think that we are looking for anything other than that. I think that you've got very, very big problems here in this country as we get nearer the July 4th and, of course, our independence. Well, unfortunately, our independence is disappearing. And, it's nice to see that many are now standing up when we look at what's going on with Target, and it has lost, $10 billion in market cap, and they got downgraded again. Anheuser-Busch getting creamed. So it is nice to see people stand up finally. But again, there's a lot going on, and we've got so many more problems to deal with, from the illegal immigration and the big battles that are going on over it. And again, just giving the left another chance to steal more votes by giving away more of your money. Think about that for a minute, because you and me are the ones that are paying for all the bullshit that they're doing. This is Bubba's Bottom Line. It is Sunday, June the 11th, and we're going to stop out here for a break. We'll be back with our market report right after the break. Bubba's Bottom Line, Sunday, June the 11th. What's up, kids? Well, again, as you know, we talk about a couple of our sponsors, each and every day and every week. And of course, we have some brokerage partners, and just to give full disclosure, I've got other brokers that I use, but the two that I prefer, and for commodities and for futures. And by the way, just in full disclosure, I think that you should have, if you're going to trade futures, you should have a futures broker. And when you trade equities, you have an equity broker. But in the meantime, our futures broker and partner in many things is Capital Trading Group. And listen, it's very simple. They're, first of all, extremely fairly priced. They have great service. You call, they answer the phone. They take care of you. They're partners in our Day Trader's Dream. And they do letter of direction trading. Check them out. It's info.capitaltradinggroup.com/Bubba. And you can see that scrolling on the sidelines here. And of course, trade your brokerage. I mean, to me, if you're not a trader, you should go have your head examined. I mean, when you can pay $10 a month versus whatever you're paying flat, okay, have great service, have the ability to hedge your portfolio through automation and automate our equity portfolios, okay, at no cost. I think, again, to me, it means that you got a couple of screws loose. But check them out, try.trader.com/Bubba. Again, they're showing on the side. And of course, our high school program, which is always one of my big dreams, to help educate our youth Well, it's becoming tougher and tougher because, of course, if we educate them, then they might actually become independent other than stuck in this bullshit era that we have that is really disturbing for the future of this country. But in the meantime, check it out on the bottom. It is high school investing, our high school investing program. In the meantime, let's get back to Bubba's Bottom Line and, of course, our market report. Welcome back. It is Bubba's Bottom Line. It is Sunday, June the 11th, and of course, markets had another, pretty good week, right? It's amazing that markets can continue to go higher, but again, when you talk about what the trend is, it doesn't have to make sense to you why the market's going higher. What has to make sense to you is you can't fight what it is. You can't assume how the news is going to be interpreted. So as we look back for the week, we are still long the Dow. Short the Dow, long the S&P, NASDAQ, and Russell. And of course, the NASDAQ and S&P continue to be really strong. The Dow continues to be the weakest of the bunch, and the Russell is trying to pick up some steam here. But of course, we know what's happened with small business and of course this administration. But in the meantime, we'll be long until we're not. Now, you all know my opinion. I believe these markets are going to get creamed at some point, but we will have plenty of time to get short. I think those who try to fight too early or try to guess too early are always going to be on the wrong side of the trade. In the meantime, through the rest of the positions in the dollar, we don't trade the dollar anymore, but we would be long, and it did have a positive week. Euro currency, which we are short, continues to be a little bit of pressure. Now, as you know, I believe we're going back to 88 cents, but I don't think it's this particular move. I think that it's over time. But you've now got so much disgusting stuff going on about the dollar and what they're trying to do between the BRICS and Saudi Arabia, China, and Russia. But again, the dollar, the fiat currency mixed system, we are still short euros. Bitcoin is, again, under pressure, but you might have thought, based on the news, it might have been under more pressure. It really isn't. It's really just still stuck in that same range. 25,000 to 28,000, we are still short it. In the copper markets, copper we're still short, and it still looks pretty bad. It made a little bit of a pop into resistance. The bonds and notes, okay, which, of course, we have a Fed meeting coming this week, and there is talk that they may pause, and it's hard to say right now. The Fed funds rate is somewhere undecided, but even if they pause this meeting, which is what's kind of priced in, rates are going a lot higher. They cannot get this inflation under control, and it's really hard to control inflation when you're doing the worst possible thing for the citizens of your country. But in the meantime, they could pause, but bonds and notes continue to fall lower, which means that interest rates are going to continue to go higher. All right, and as we look at the precious metals, we're still short gold, we're still short silver. We would be short platinum if we traded it, but we no longer trade it because it's just not liquid enough. But gold and silver, again, I'm very bullish gold and silver, and I think they're going a lot higher. However, just like the indexes, the trend right now is down. So why would I want to fight that? Okay. As we look at the natural gas and crude market, okay, natural gas continues to be under somewhat pressure, but if you look out further into the curve, they call it, right, each month expiration, natural gas gets much more expensive in October, November. And crude oil has been very mixed, but did crack below 69 the other day before closing the week in 70 and change. I think what you want to understand about this is even with Saudi Arabia's cuts, which is going to slow production, what that's really telling you is that we're potentially going into a deflationary cycle. And I think you have to be very careful about that because, you may think that deflation is good and you like it, but you won't like it. It's not good for anybody. Okay. So in the meantime, that's one of the reasons I think, but I would expect oil to pick up and get going again. In the grain markets, it looks like corn has found a bottom. We are long. We are going to reverse soybeans either tonight or tomorrow, depending on how you do yours. And of course, wheat we're still short. But I do think that we have seen potentially the lows for the year in the grain markets. It doesn't mean there won't be longs and shorts, but I think we've potentially seen it. But we're long corn, going to be long beans, and still short wheat. In the protein complex cattle continues to make all-time highs. These are all-time record highs, and of course, goes back to a shortage of supply. Okay, and it's going to take a while to rebuild those herds. Now, we're getting to a point where I would just say every week, sell, sell, sell. Now, we don't trade them anymore, but certainly if we go a little bit higher, I'll probably be looking to sell them myself just for a trade. And hogs are, it looks like they're trying to bottom, but we'd be long cattle, short hogs if we were involved. And we take a look at the softs. Cocoa continues to run higher, and we are still long. Sugar lower, we're still short. Coffee is had a little bit of a push, kind of a crazy week. We reversed to long. Sugar, we're still short, going lower, and OJ is also lower. I think what you have to remember is, just that sometimes when prices get too high or too low in the commodity space, there's probably something to do there. And of course, cotton is still really stuck in a long-term consolidation, but we are still short cotton. And again, I just want to remind you that conditions are very slow. Conditions are very challenging. Volatility is drying up. Now, too much complacency leads to the next major meltdown. When it's coming, that I don't know, but I will tell you it is coming. I will not be prepared for it when it does come. I mean, I'll be hedged, but I will be able to reverse quickly when it is time, because it doesn't happen in one day, so you have plenty of time. In the meantime, just be careful. Markets are tough. Let us step out here for our final break and come back with our commentary right here on Bubba's Bottom Line. Well, kids, of course, again, I'm not going to go through the whole spiel, but our partners, Trader Brokerage, try.trader.com/Bubba. Scrolling on the side, you can get their website, or Capital Trading Group for futures and commodities. And of course, our high school program, which we desperately try to help educate. But of course, this administration and our current teachers don't want us to educate the children. They want to keep turning them into whatever. We can call them whatevers. In the meantime, this is Bubba's Bottom Line, top Bubba Horowitz. Let's get back and get my commentary for the week right now. Welcome back. It is Bubba's Bottom Line. It is Sunday, June the 11th. And of course, we did see, as we opened up with, we talked about the indictments to President Trump. And I want to know why we have 3 sets of laws now. I thought we had laws on the books. I thought we had a constitution, but yet we have the laws for the left, which are do whatever you want, steal, cheat, lie, which includes Biden, Newsom, Clinton. Okay, steal to your heart's content. Take $5 million. It's not a big deal. Okay, take care of the criminal son of yours, Hunter, and the rest. And of course, if you were a member of the Trump family, the entire family would be in jail if any of those were Biden's. Okay, we're doing what Biden's are doing, and of course, I do believe, unfortunately, for those that this will make Trump a stronger candidate for president in 2024. Again, I think that they're really adding fuel to the fire, but the ignorance of people that continue to accept the thievery and the bribery of our president and the things that he has done versus the attack on Donald Trump going on now 8 years or 9 years. And of course, then they have the laws for you and me, which is obviously the worst of the bunch. We get screwed more than anybody on every single front. And I think you have to put a stop to it at some point. And the only way to stop it is to get your ass out and vote when it comes time. And vote for what is right for American people, for the American middle class. Because at the end of the day, they are doing their damnedest to destroy it. And certainly for me, it won't really matter. I'll be dead. But I got to worry about my kids, my grandchildren, your kids. And if you don't do something now, it'll be too late. This is Bubba's Bottom Line, Tom Bubba Horowitz. Unfortunately, with the scheduling, there is no hockey, there is no NBA tonight. We've been in fuego, but we'll have to give you some winners tomorrow on Bubba's Daily Update. In the meantime, have a great weekend, everybody. Enjoy, and we will see you back here tomorrow with Bubba's Daily Update. Bubba's Bottom Line, Sunday, June the 11th.